Welcome to Studio 5. Ahead in today's show, Anthony Evans talks new music. We connect with a fashion designer and a fresh look at the Wild Robot film, just in case you missed it. Let's begin with Anthony Evans. The singer and songwriter is giving us a glimpse into his family, his life, and his future in music.
Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus. Just to take him at his word.
I followed your dad and the rest of the family for a long, long time. I remember listening to your dad with my aunt in the car on the radio, wondering, who is this Tony Evans and what is the urban?
Yelling at me on the radio.
Like, I don't know what this is, but she listens to it, so I'm listening. But I didn't begin to follow your mom until after she passed, and then I started going back and looking. So now she's been gone since 2019.
2019, yeah.
What's these last 5-6 years been like?
It's been hard, obviously. I mean, that goes without saying. It's been very hard. But we've also tried to figure out ways, and I've done a lot of work on myself, because I was like, this is a moment where if you don't apply God's word to your life, get into therapy to get help applying God's word to your life, you're going to have a major problem, Anthony, because ministry couldn't continue at that velocity with that hurt going on inside of me. I was like, this is an issue. So it's been good in the area of walking in the direction of healing, good in the area of learning how to grieve graciously, we do things in honor of her now. There are moments where I will sing in honor of her. I will take it, just so many nuances, so many things when it comes to the way she would want things. I operate that way a lot in honor of her. And then it looks like reassessing. I mean, my dad got remarried a year ago. So that's been an adjustment, obviously, because your mom for 50 years has been, that's who my dad's next to. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand how to comprehend anything different, but that's also been a growth process. But at the same time, we just make sure that we are honoring her. That's our way to carry her legacy on, and to kind of, it helps with the grief process.
Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear.
Your dad was talking about the time he apologized to you.
Yeah.
In black families, that doesn't happen a lot. I know
many
families,
I don't think
especially black families.
Yeah, exactly. I apologize for the way these lights are on. You know what I mean?
We got ways of apologizing, but to actually come to you and say,
I was, vulnerable with my parents and mentioned something that they didn't even know. They didn't know. I was the peacemaker, easy. They literally thanked God that they had an easy kid, because my siblings were a little hard. You know what I'm saying? But they thanked God that they had an easy kid. But they didn't know that I was just masking it and making them think I was fine when I was not. And so I explained to them something that was hurtful. They had no idea, because they thought the easy kid's just gonna wander off and be alone, or just kind of be by himself. He can entertain himself. And finally, when my dad heard that story, I will never forget. I was staying with my parents at that moment, and I heard his footsteps walk down the hall. You know, like the parental footsteps. We all have like a memory of the footsteps. And he just opened the door, and I was a grown man. And he just said, "I am so sorry," because I had no idea. And that was like, wild to me. What the healing that happened when his voice just said, acknowledged. I feel like I literally am so blessed to have my parents, because a lot of people, I understand, don't get that. And I feel for people who don't get that, but there is a process toward healing also for them.
So we've lost a lot of people this year, especially in the entertainment world. And there's one where you posted a picture with you and Quincy Jones, and you say, you'll never forget what he said to you that made you believe in yourself more than you ever have.
You're like, what did he
say? So you know I have to ask, because I'm thinking, what did he say? What did he say?
For sure.
What did he say?
What he said was on the heels of, just really briefly, of the industry. When I first got involved, I was not gospel enough. I was not CCM enough. I was in the middle, and that was not a thing. There was no Maverick City when I started. There was no in the middle thing. So I felt very like I don't fit.
You restore every heart that is broken.
But to stand on the Hollywood Bowl stage in a general market venue, and Quincy Jones is sitting there, and he just pulled me in and was like, "You are exceptional." Like, that's it. That's all. One of the greatest producers in the world. And he kind of broke down why. Like, you sang these notes and the way you did this, and come here. He made me like lean into him and was like, you are exceptional. You keep that singing up and you keep that. And that, from the world's greatest, kind of just validated all the years of pushing through and like knowing you're called to it, even though you don't fit, you know?
I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
What are we looking forward to in 2025?
I am looking forward to continuing to do events with my family. Getting to produce those makes me so happy. So we work on those now. Obviously, you're getting the venue situated and everything. So that's happening now. And have a whole live out. We went in the studio, recorded down a bunch of songs live, filmed them live. The first single is in January, and it's featuring Naomi Rain.
Awesome. And I saw you recorded at least video of you singing Believe for it.
Move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, I believe. God, I believe for it.
Yeah.
What made you do that?
A friend of mine who actually is a supermodel, she said, Anthony, people need to just see you sing. Like, and Priscilla, my sister, also was like, you can just sit at a piano and sing. You don't need all the shenanigans. So I just was at a studio and was like, hey, give me a mic. And just sang at the piano. And those videos have performed better than album. I mean, you know how it goes? It's like, just relax and do you. So
you be you, and God pours the oil. So
yes.
you just be you.
Yes.
It reminds me of something Shirley Season with
no oil.
No oil.
That is great. That is great.
God, I believe for it.
Anthony Evans' newest music project is expected to be released sometime this year. Still to come, he's a fashion designer who specializes in repurposed clothing.
The philosophy is basically, hey, we want to take old things and make them new again.
David Osborne mixes fashion and faith.
I can have these subtle references to where my faith comes from without it being disruptive in a bad way.
Welcome back to Studio 5. David Osborne is a husband, father, pastor, and fashion designer. He's the founder and creative director of the Bakar Collection, a brand specializing in original repurposed designs. Your line is called the Bakar Collection.
Right.
I'm saying that right?
Yep, Bakar Collection, yep.
What's that mean, and what's the...
Sure.
How did it happen?
Yeah, it's a weird name for a fashion brand. The story behind it is, my name is David, and 1 Samuel, there's a verse in there where he represents David was proven or tried. And so basically how it started for me, when I was 17 years old, I rededicated my life to Jesus. And when I came to faith, I heard something very clear. I remember I was vacuuming and I heard God speak to me, and he said, hey, I want you to empty out your closet. After having this kind of dialogue with God, he basically is like, hey, you give me your closet and I'll give you a clothing line. And literally 2 weeks after that, I just started getting all these ideas and these design ideas. So I started writing them down and started making them. Just a friend of mine, we just started making this stuff. And basically that's how the development of it started. You know, right now, vocationally, I'm a pastor. And so for me, I didn't know how those things would come together, you know, being a fashion guy in a church, I didn't know how it was going to come together at all. So in 2013, our church, we did a thing called Redefine, and it was a conference gathering culture makers and people that were shaping things. And so we had this conversation with the creative director for Kanye West and LeBron James manager, and people who were doing really cool things in the culture, but they had this kind of faith leaning. And so after that, having kind of like started that, I said, you know what, I have to be credible to the conversation. Basically what happened is I said, okay, God, let's go back to it. And I pulled out the design references and started it. And now it's been since February of 2015 that it's been official.
Now, in terms of your designs, tell me about how they come together. You take old and blend new. What happens?
Yeah, so it's this idea of, the philosophy is basically, hey, we want to take old things and make them new again, you know, and what that means. And so when I'm talking to a model from Brazil, or I'm talking with a a fashion stylist from New York or any of these different places, I can have these subtle references to where my faith comes from without it being disruptive in a bad way.
And obviously it's had a lot of appeal to some big names in entertainment and sports. I'm seeing photographs of who's wearing Bakar.
Yeah. And I have no credit for this. This is just, like I said, it's a God thing. So I got a call from the stylist for Russell Westbrook and Nas, and they said, hey, we saw your stuff, we love it, we want to get it on our artist. So I was like, okay, great. So Russell had ordered some pieces, and then just some really amazing people that are in the creative world. It's just been unreal, the places where the brand has gone, and more specifically, the conversations that it's lended itself to. I'm not saying that there's been these massive decisions for Jesus because of a jacket, you know, but what I am saying is I've been able to have some really interesting conversation with people that don't share the same faith or perspective that I do. And when they start wondering about, man, well, how do you do this and where does this come from? You know, I'll tell Complex Magazine or I'll tell anybody else, like, yo, this is how it came to me. And that's always opens like a door for like further discussion.
You got a favorite piece that you've designed?
Yeah. You know, I tell people about this. I say everything that we do is inspired. And so, for instance, collection 2, I called it Born for the Struggle. And it basically, the references from my Jamaican heritage. I'm half Jamaican, half Mexican. And so my cultural reference from Jamaica is I've kind of hinged it on black, which is obviously one of the colors for the flag, which means strength, green, which symbolizes like flourishing, and then yellow, which symbolizes the creativity of the people. Today, this one is called the Strength by Strength jacket, and so it's the black on black, represents like this idea of strengthening each other by strengthening our people, and that's what I love about using, you know, fashion to kind of say something beyond, you know, just a garment.
To see more of Osborne's fashion collection, simply go to bakarcollection.com. As we head to a break right here, we want to share this week's story in pictures. Here is your Studio 5 snapshot for the week.
We have an early look at images from House of David, streaming to Prime Video February 27th. The series tells the story of the biblical figure David and his rise to become the most celebrated king of Israel. We also witness the fall of the once mighty King Saul, whose pride predicts his fate. Studio 5 travels to Greece to take you inside the production in the weeks ahead. For now, it's this week's Studio 5 Snapshot. Still ahead.
I do not have the programming to be a mother.
No one does. We just make it up.
We take a look at the award-winning film, The Wild Robot. It's all just in case you missed it.
The Wild Robot performed strongly at the box office after its release. The animated feature earned more than $300 million globally and earned 4 Golden Globe nominations.
Incident report. At 0300 hours, a number of Universal Dynamics robots were lost in a typhoon. Chance of recovery is unlikely.
The Wild Robot is about a robot who has found herself on this island and doesn't really know what her purpose is.
Oh, okay. Hello. This Gosling is yours.
Because she knows nothing but to do the job she wasn't intended to do, she goes about trying to be of help to these wild animals. And in the process, she has to learn to be more than she was programmed to be.
My communication package includes strategies for conflict resolution.
Lupita, in particular, is the soul of this movie, much as Roz is. Lupita inhabits that character in a way that lends itself to all these great, deep emotional moments that we get to experience.
Tell your people not to worry.
Then when you see it in the movie and the looks, the eyes, I mean, it's just incredible.
I do not have the programming to be a mother.
No one does. We just make it up.
Her kindness ends up being her superpower and uniting the animals of the island in a time when it matters most.
Are those your parents?
I know predators, and those are predators.
I do like doing animation because, like all sort of creative processes, it starts off being very small and very kind of minimal. It's just me in a box with a mic, and then a year down the line you see what that turns into.
It's right there! The monster! Every second of it is thought out by people who are doing beautiful work.
Allow me to introduce myself. I've always had an inkling how much work goes into these kinds of experiences. It's no surprise, but I still am fascinated about how much goes into it from so many different levels.
That gosling stalks me, emits noise, and makes simple tasks more complicated or impossible.
It has been fascinating to have a front row seat to the process of making Roz and the world that she lives in.
The book and the film go to very, very deep emotional places, and we felt we wanted the art to embody that.
Rosms are programmed for instant physical mimicry, so as to...
With something like this, which has great scale and grandeur, it would be a shame to limit yourself to a small iPad or a small screen.
This is a story about belonging and how you seek it when you find yourself in a foreign world.
The love and kindness that Roz learns is what, eventually kind of helps them succeed in the film.
What are they saying?
They want me to come with them.
Tell them you're already home.
I do think they'll see something they haven't quite seen before.
Hello!
Yeah, it's very moving, and it's funny. I think it's got everything.
I am already home, thank you.
You do not belong here. This is a wilderness.
It's a very inspiring, powerful story.
Roz is an unrelentingly kind character.
And I am a wild robot.
The more damage she takes, the better she gets, the more she learns. And I think that's the message from this movie that I hope everybody would take home with them and that would resonate with them, is that your character can withstand a lot, and it can be better for it.
Sometimes, to survive, we must become more than we were programmed to be.
The Wild Robot is now available on streaming platforms. Welcome back to Studio 5. Music helps us to bring you this show each and every week, and this week's soundtrack comes from Pastor Mike Jr. and Pastor Michael Todd. Take a listen and you'll hear why Crazy Faith is what's playing in my ear this week.
Michael! People telling me I'm crazy, but see what faith did. See what faith did. See what faith is. Yeah. People telling me I'm crazy, but see what faith did. Watch how it be big and amazing. I told you that I got it, now I got it. See what faith is. As long as I got God, y'all can't stop me, man. The whole world calling me crazy.
Crazy Faith. On that musical note, we are just about out of time for this week's edition of Studio 5. So let's take a quick look at what we have in store for you on next week's rundown.
For my grandpa Buck, farming wasn't a job.
Easy.
It was a sacred act. I couldn't do farming anymore. I was on my way out for some bigger dreams.
Green and Gold stars Emmy and Golden Globe nominated actor Craig T. Nelson as a struggling dairy farmer.
He's a fourth-generation farmer. He's trying to make sense of life in a situation where it looks like there's no way out. He may lose what he's held precious to him.
It's an incredible story, inspired by the two first-time filmmakers' grandfather.
Our grandfather was a dairy farmer, and that farm was closed when we came around, but we kind of grew up around some of that community and just you know, it's as close to, physically, location-wise, it's really close to our home, which is kind of right on the Wisconsin-Northern Michigan border. And so, but yeah, we just always had like a passion for telling stories about that area, and this is really our first opportunity to get a chance to share kind of the beauty of what we grew up around and the beauty of the people up there.
Join us for that story and so much more come next week. As for this week, we've got just a few moments left in our show, and we want to give that time to recording artist Anthony Evans.
One of the things you said was to grieve graciously for people who are going through that, especially now.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I would say that you have to allow yourself, in order to heal, you have to allow yourself to feel. You cannot just business as usual, keep it going. Some people have that, that's a part of the way they cope, is just keep moving. Those feelings are going somewhere, and they are staying inside of you unless you let them out. And they turn different way. Like sometimes there was a period where I was angry and I like kind of outbursty and stuff. And my therapist was like, that's sadness that turned into anger that you're not letting out. So Anthony, go to your roof in LA. Like everybody has, like, you can go to a rooftop, go to the roof, take a picture of your mom, look at the sunset. She loves sunsets, and allow yourself to feel. You don't have to have a breakdown. If tears come, let them come. If a laugh comes, let it come. Those feelings, the other side of actually grieving it is a return to joy. And that's what I would say to somebody who's been through loss.
I like that.
Yes.
I like that.
That's a great final word for this week's edition of Studio 5 and this week's look at uplifting entertainment. Until next time, make time to uplift someone around you, and then come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.